One of the really cool studies that came out, you take like an insurance office and half of them, you put them under surveillance. Keystrokes per minute, active badges as they move around, go to the restroom, everything is monitored. And then they get performance reviews and all that based on all that information. The other side is you come in and you punch a time card, we're paying you a fair wage, work, do your job. And what do you see as you track these two populations? You see one side start taking more sick days, more health problems, productivity goes down and on, and the other side, productivity stays the same, and you don't get all this other stuff. This side is more likely to commit acts of violence against computer systems and whatnot on the job, more sexual harassment, everything. It's a clear connection between human health and well-being and the ability to access and control personal information.
Welcome to the Academy on Capitalism's video series on liberty. Welcome to our channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. Today we are interviewing Adam Moore, professor of information technology at Washington University, author of 5 books, 2 books, and 3 edited volumes. And he's an expert on privacy, and we have him here today. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks. Great to be here. Happy to be a part of it.
Excellent. So first of all, let us know why did you get into privacy? Why is this the issue that interests you?
It came out of my dissertation. I did a dissertation on intellectual property rights, how you would justify intellectual property rights. And at the end of that, I started worrying about things like, can I write a song and in that song seed it with personal information, say about you or my ex-girlfriend or something like that, and get an intellectual property right in a song that contained private information about somebody else? So I started worrying about privacy at that point. So I thought, I can justify intellectual property rights, but wait a minute, what should they be tempered by privacy rights? And I started thinking, what is privacy? Is privacy morally valuable? And if it is morally valuable, how would you then justify a right to privacy, and how would that get out in the law or impact legal institutions, both public and private and whatnot?
So this sounds like an issue that would be relevant and of importance and interest to both the left and right, because basically what you're asking is, in part, can I commoditize information about somebody else such that I financially benefit from it? In terms, because if I write it like in a song or a book or whatever else, then it's protected by copyright, which is then my personal monopoly on that. And then I get to sell that and reap the benefits from something that has originated, say, from you. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. And and you can see how it can be pretty tricky, because I want to say that there can be intellectual property rights, but I don't like the idea that I could have had an intimate relationship with somebody and then use that relationship and instantiate it in my intellectual property, monetize it, make a lot of money by it, and then kind of out somebody who didn't want to be outed in whatever way that they're outed by me, like broadcasting their sensitive private information. And so I want to limit intellectual property rights in a way, that's not typically, you can see how it can be very difficult to do. I want to limit intellectual property rights, and for that matter, speech. So I think I want to say I should have intellectual property rights to do and say a lot of things, but not to violate your privacy. And so my intellectual property rights would be limited in that sense, and also my speech would be limited in that sense. And that I couldn't say, shout your credit card information from the mountaintop, or if I had access to your medical records, publish that, and either as an intellectual property or a work of intellectual property, or simply as a matter of freedom of speech. So I want to add an exception to both intellectual property rights and speech rights, privacy-based restriction on speech and IP.
Well, no, interesting, because we start with this sort of beneficial, kind of benign. I want to write something neat or write a nice song, and we have to also remember, too, that there are people out there who would maybe not want to publish information for reasons just of financial benefit, but also in terms of maybe vindictiveness. Are there any restrictions on, say, publishing information, including visual information, as a form of revenge against people? Is there anything that exists now that would protect people from this kind of vindictive behavior?
Yeah, so there's a few laws on the books, basically under the heading of revenge porn, things like that. So somebody sends somebody else a picture, a naked picture of themselves. They break up, and the person who's got the picture, a copy of the picture, then puts it up on a website or something like that. The easiest way to adjudicate that dispute is through copyright law, oddly enough, because suppose I take the picture of myself and I send it to someone else. As soon as I snap that photograph, I get a copyright, lifetime plus 70, $250,000 fine if it's copied, all kinds of stuff automatically applies to that. I send it to my partner, we break up, they then post it on the internet. They have now violated copyright law. And I can go after them for a violation of they posted a copy. I can give them a takedown order, and if they refuse to do that, then I could sue them. That's one, but imagine it wasn't that case, though. Probably what you're thinking is, what if I didn't take the picture of myself, but my partner took a picture of me? Now they own the copyright, and I have no legal standing on copyright grounds to stop the revenge porn. And so there's a couple of statutes, and it's some of it's state-based. Some I don't know if there's anything federal yet. And in the EU, European Union, they have fairly strong rights around this. They almost treat privacy, private information as a kind of property right, an intangible property right. And it doesn't matter whether I snap the picture or somebody else snapped the picture. You can't broadcast that without satisfying some conditions. In the United States, we don't have that. We have revenge porn laws that are now starting to percolate up and populate here and there, but I don't think there's any blanket statute. I'm not sure on that, though.
So let's ask. I mean, for those watching, usually I would imagine when you think of private, we think of behind closed doors that nobody else can see. It sounds like you have a slightly more expansive view of privacy, and privacy is actually any information, visual, auditory, written, that originates with me.
Yeah.
So let's say, so my private information is anything that originates with me, including my visual representation, things I'm saying. Is that accurate? Can you explain a little bit more about what you think privacy means?
Sure. So I've defined privacy as a right to control access to and uses of places and locations. So physical privacy, a bedroom, a door, a body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to certain kinds of personal information. And so right to control access to and uses of locations, bodies, and certain personal information. Some information about me may not be sensitive or personal, like I don't know how tall I am. I don't know whether I have blue eyes. I don't know about that. It gets difficult sometimes, but if you think of privacy in that terms, then the access point. So I may give access in all kinds of different ways in the public. Maybe I step out onto a public street and I walk down the street, and I know other people are going to notice me, maybe. But by allowing somebody access to, say, private information, that Adam is here at this certain moment in time, or that he's so tall, or that he has a limp, or whatever it might be, or even if I left the hair follicle behind and you could map my genome from that information, just because that I've allowed access, I don't think I've also granted downstream uses of this information. So I always put it like this in my classes. If I have a copyright to a poem I wrote and I let you read the poem, that I just waive my copyright. So I just say, here's access and here's the 5 copyrights, and you can monetize it, you can sell it, you can make a movie about my poem. And we all think, no, I've given you access, but I didn't waive all my other rights. I want to view privacy in the same way. I give people all kinds of access to private information, especially close people or friends, or even people that aren't acquaintances or people I don't know at all. But by giving access, I haven't also granted or waived future control over or rights to this stuff going downstream. So the other way I give it is this: I say, "Oh, Bill, man, my knee really hurts. Can you look at it? I'm going to give you access to my knee. Have I now waived for once and all time access control rights to my knee related to you? Could you just walk in on? I got it. You waived it once, so now I can come in and look at it anytime I want. And we all think no. It was a limited thing for one time. Bill, in this case, can look at my knee, like my doctor might look at my knee. I want to say that's as true of information as well.
Well, no, that makes sense, and it's not just a legal matter. I mean, there's, we talk about speech. There's much that's conventional in it. So if I give someone access to my house, I invite you to dinner. I have not given you permission to go through my medicine cabinet. I haven't given you full access to my entire house. What have I given you access to? Well, that is a difficult matter. But conventionally, we seem to understand you're not allowed to go rummaging through my sock drawer if I've invited you over for Thanksgiving dinner. So it's sort of this provisional. So if you see me on the streets, of course, you're allowed to look at me. I'm in a public place. I can't say, "Ooh, private." You have to shut your eyes.
Right.
But I have not given you every access imaginable to me. I haven't given insurance companies permission to follow me around, right, and collect DNA samples so that then they can, maybe figure out various risks and diseases, right?
And if you think, so you think of the case like where I follow you around with a video camera, and you step out onto a public street, and I videotape you wherever you go in public. Maybe not the public bathroom, but everywhere else, right? And I upload it immediately to the web. So somebody like me is going to say, I may have granted people access rights to my image and certain things when I step out into the public, but I'm not also granting people rights to capture, digitize that, upload it, make it searchable on the web and permanent. And so another way I get this idea is, would any of us find it morally questionable if you were to step out into the public and wear a disguise? So maybe you disguise your walk so gait technology can't track that it's you, and you wear a mask, maybe a hat, or maybe you have one of these kind of a cloaking device, go real sci-fi, like a predator type cloaking device. You could take all those precautions. You could wear disguises so that people wouldn't know it's you, and we might think it's a little bit weird if you did that, but it's within your rights to. So there you are saying, I do not give you access to that somebody's here, but you don't know that it's Bill Klein, and you don't know my height or eye color or anything because it's all disguised. So that's within your right to property or privacy. But most cases we don't do that. We just let this stuff loose into the world because who cares for the most part. But we should care more and more about not letting access, and I think that's probably one of the things that people should take more care with is allowing access now, and how this stuff is digitized and held permanently and searchable, and you can triangulate things. So 20 years down the road, you're being able to do things that all that I did when I was a youngster is lost in analog technology and burnt in a landfill somewhere. Now that doesn't happen. Now it's saved forever. And now it can be monetized, triangulated, and then ultimately used to manipulate you. So with the right data points and the right searches on all this kind of information, I can know your political affiliations. I can know what you like. Maybe I can know what kind of cameras or computers you like, and then I can target ads specifically designed to manipulate you in certain kinds of ways. We can do this now. This is one thing scary my colleagues in the information school talk about is we can have computers mimic the kinds of things that you like. So maybe you like an aggressive personality or a certain kind of facial hair or whatever it is. The candidate that is now pitching why you should vote for them, say in a computer ad, can be morphed to look more like and sound more like the person that you would find to be compelling. And those are targeted ads that are already in play. So and all of that is going to be built upon the private information that you let loose as you go.
So whatever background if they're in a green screen, whatever background's behind them, if you're interested in farm equipment, et cetera, that would show that. If you're more of an urban dweller, the same ad might have some city, prominent city behind them. For those watching, Dr. Moore and I are here in fabulous Las Vegas. We are actually in a casino filming this, and we are being watched by cameras right now that are digitizing our presence. And if you walk into a casino, they have facial recognition technology, don't they?
Yeah.
And I wonder, because a lot of times, people say, your picture, so what? Just a regular picture, not the other stuff we were talking about. But it is conceivable that those pictures could be used to fool facial recognition technology to get people access to information that they shouldn't have, and abuse your visual information, let's say, in a manner to gain access to even more information about you.
Right. Yeah. And the way it's cascading and the way AI is going to use it and I think when we step out into the public, whether it's in a casino where we know our eyes are on us all the time or just anywhere else, you should probably assume that you're being monitored, surveilled, and recorded. But what we don't realize is how all that stuff is going to be used by both governments and corporations in the future to get certain things that they want. And it could be, we think it's a mundane thing that, what do I care if somebody 10 years from now can pinpoint exactly where I was, exactly what I said, what I was wearing these years ago. But what we're finding is that becomes extremely important, and it can be used to our benefit in some cases, in many cases. And it also can be used to manipulate, control, and to control us, and both in terms of the market, but also more likely in control of political control. And so we see this in China, for example, the social credit system going on over there, where everything's being tracked, and whether or not you turn your library book back in on time, whether or not you show up to your dinner reservation, all this is, I think they did a Black Mirror episode about this, which is quite frightening, but it's all being used, fed into a database, and then used to determine rights and liberties that you have as a Chinese citizen, whether or not you can get to go to this place for vacation, or whether you can leave the country at all, based on mundane facts of everyday life, on whether you pay your bills early or on time or a day late, or whatever it is. So in our society, you say this, we're good, democracy, republic, and all of that, and maybe think we should worry about what might transpire as we move forward in time. Maybe we don't become as free as we are right now, and we'd have all this information and ways to control and manipulate U.S. citizens. But you can also think of it just as how unfree governments or autocratic governments might use these technologies, and that's exactly what's going on.
Right. Well, the U.S. government used to have a program, I believe it was called Carnivore, trying to all the data from any electronic source. They say they've eliminated that, but yet the wrong people will end up on no-fly lists, and nobody knows why. So it's not clear that some of that, determining your rights and liberties, your permissions and freedoms now, isn't already determined. Has one gone to a cannabis store and paid for it by credit card? Will that then affect their application for a gun permit later down the road, because all the information can be accessed and gathered? So, the bank credit card that you have, can you use that to buy? Or will the federal government shut down the bank or threaten the bank because they know that credit card has been used because of some information? That's a realistic possibility, correct?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of,
Or if you buy a gun,
right.
I mean, their worry in the 80s was, right, you have to sign some registration form and everybody know where you are. Well, now if I use a credit card and the government can view that financial data, they'll know what gun I own,
right,
where I bought it.
Right.
And with you don't even need to fill out a registration.
Yeah, with the surveillance state, they'll know what time you showed up to buy the gun and what car you drove and everything about.
Well, they already know that car, because there are, what is that called? The camera system on U.S. highways? Is it a ferry system?
Yeah, forget. Yeah.
But they have a system of cameras already. They don't willy-nilly look, but if you are in any way subject of a search,
we just saw recently the FISA.
What is FISA?
The Foreign Surveillance Intelligence Act. Let's pull that one out. Yeah, and it goes all the way back to Patriot Act type stuff. But it's the one. The question. The main question is: can a government engage in warrantless searches of U.S. citizens? Now, we always say if you're not a U.S. citizen, sucks to be you, right? citizens get full complement of the rights of the United States. Non-citizens don't. So if you're in the United States and you're a foreigner, you're not a citizen, they don't have to. Foreign agents or government agents don't have to get a warrant. But if you're a U.S. citizen, the question is, do they have to get a warrant? And the answer since Patriot, since 9/11, 2001, is no, they don't have to get a warrant. If the investigation is connected to a terrorist investigation, which is exceedingly easy to.
And terrorist by their definition, right? Whatever that may be, which we probably don't have access to because it's a non-transparent system.
Right. And drugs, and whether it's marijuana or any other, most different kinds of drugs are almost always in some way back to a few steps related to terrorists or to organized crime / terrorism. Boom, they have you. So now they can open up, they can look at everything they want to look at, every bit of data out there flowing throughout third parties. So all your Verizon information, credit card information, all those cameras alongside the highway, every time your license plate pops up on an automated license plate reader that a cop car has as they drive by, all that information is available to them without a warrant. They don't have to go to a judge. They don't have to show probable cause that a crime is, was, or will be committed. They can just open up.
And it's all because you might be 5 steps removed. I remember we're all 4 steps away from, who's that actor?
Kevin Bacon?
Yes, that's right. So it's like saying if you're 6 steps removed from Kevin Bacon, we can investigate you.
Right.
So it's not that hard to do in very few steps. And that same would apply for what people call assault rifles.
Mm-hmm.
That all that data is going to be collected. So, and the reason I'm saying this is because I want to be clear. This spans a broad range of interests, and some people will say, "Well, I don't care if you're smoking or chewing marijuana edibles." I think that's something that the government should come down on. And it's like, yeah, but the issue is not just that; it's anything you hold near and dear.
Mm-hmm.
What school supplies you buy for your homeschool children?
Right.
You buy that with a credit card. They're going to know what book you bought. They're going to know the publisher. They're going to know the information, and they're going to know, because of the AI stuff you're talking about, mimicking people, mimicking households, they're going to get a fairly good idea of what you're teaching your children. And sorry, if the state doesn't like that.
Mm-hmm. And the thing you have to worry about, I believe, is that not what this government or your side might do. Your side's always going to be doing great stuff. It's what happens when the other side gets in. And they're going to use the same tools and resources to work against your interests. So if my guy wins in the presidency, I'm great. Yeah, I want him to do this, that, and the other. But the next around,
but if my woman wins, and they're coming after you now.
Yeah, and then she's all right. And so the idea that I would push is that with strong privacy rights, property rights, stability, and these kinds of things, we limit access to that stuff. I want to say if a government agent wants to access information about me, they have to go before a judge, an independent third party, and say, a crime is, was, or will be committed, and here's my evidence, okay. And then a narrow, targeted search, which is the way the Fourth Amendment reads, on opening up Adam's life. Well, we think he's doing this or that, and so we're gonna search his garage and his car for this or that and the other. Not a blanket fishing expedition on everything, all the data that Adam puts out or has put out over the last 10 years, which is what they're doing.
So once again, provisional access, that if there is evidence that I have stolen a car, you can search my garage and my property. But looking through my medicine cabinet,
right,
there's no reason to do that. The car won't be in there.
All right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the context of the need, let us say, and I'm assuming the need is genuine. Like there's some definitive criminal activity that has resulted in harm, will result in harm.
Yeah.
So I'm just using even a narrow, right? But that only gives, and a sort of I'm actually utilitarian, but a public good argument that, like, well, if we allow them to search everything, they might find other stuff that means that you're a bad person. Right. And then we got the bad person. And you're like, nope, because guess what? None of us are saints. And
right.
What a bad person is actually not going to be determined by you and your ethical rules. What a bad person is going to be determined by the person who's searching.
Right.
And that's
the scary thing.
And that's the scary thing, right? Once they have the information, they can interpret it, as we say, the way they want. I want to briefly go back real quick. We talked about this sort of conventional notion of I step out in the street, because we've been talking about private citizens, which is very interesting. We often forget that private citizens can violate the rights of other private citizens. That's why there's laws against murder, rape, and theft. So we this is why we talk about corporations and other individuals taking pictures. But when I walk in the streets, what just came out on this, right? We are going to be surveilled, not only by private and corporate means, but by the state. Your thoughts on, should the state even be allowed to have those cameras, or yes and provisional access?
Yeah, so I think the for the most part, I don't know what the numbers would be, but I think most surveillance is now, it's called the third party doctrine. It's all done by private. So all the information being collected about me is for the most part not being done by the government. It's being done by everything else. Comcast, Verizon, hotel cameras, parking lot cameras, everything like along those lines. And then the government uses the third party doctrine to say, there's Adam, Verizon, let's say, and us. And the third party doctrine basically says if it's information that Adam has allowed a third party to acquire,
you've given up your presumption of privacy,
right? And so they can just without a warrant go in and now use very powerful AI tools to start. So early on, you could say so 20 years ago they could say using these third parties, these kinds of databases, they could say, Adam's in Vegas right now. We would like to know, up comes my picture of me, my driver's license, social security number. That's all very fast. And this is 20-year-old technology. So I invite you to think about what they can do now, right? And they might say, well, okay, who's in the next room? Who's staying next to Adam? 20 years ago, that pops up in real time. What about on the other side? What about everybody Adam has talked to as he has walked around Vegas? Now, that might have been difficult 20 years ago, but it's probably doable today. And that's all information held by...
Well, facial recognition technology, old facial recognition technology the casinos employed. This is I would think a decade ago, that if you had violated rules in the casino and the casino had ejected you for reasons and you walked in and the cameras picked you up, they could know, right, and come. So I don't know how fantastic or horrible, however you want to say it, that technology is now, but I think, we know images are searchable. And so to find out who you talk to, I would just have to third-party access to the casino we're in, do a visual search of you, and then in every one of those photos, pick up people, and it's in the speed of a Google search, right?
Right.
And then pick up maybe who their affiliates are, or pick up whether they've multiple times been talking to you. Yeah, it's what can be known.
Right. So we're definitely in this surveillance state kind of era, how do you defeat that, or how do you mitigate against that?
Do you have any words about how people might be able to? Nothing's foolproof, but is there any like advice that, as we leave people here who are like, oh my God, they're always being watched, is there anything that you can do to mitigate it a little bit? Is there any, or are we just powerless?
I do the best I can. So I know that iPhones aren't perfect, but they do offer more protection than some of the other phones. There are military-grade encrypted phones you can buy out there that are locked-down environments that can't be hacked, cracked, or whatever. So if I have one of these, I think it...
But what about like my Facebook page and stuff like that?
If you're doing that, you're toast.
That's okay. Yeah. Truth is hard.
And then the other thing that's kind of one thing we're thinking about, and I've asked my students, I work with technology, gifted students, like I want obfuscation. What I want is an app on my phone that just seeds the environment around me. Facebook sends emails through what bogus setup of bots, email accounts, to just flood the information sphere out there with baloney, right? Stuff that is untrue about me. I want to obfuscate the truth from the...
So sort of old trial lawyer trick, where if you ask for them to turn over files related to a case, and they'll back up a semi
Right.
with everything. Now, the information you were looking for is in that semi, but you can...
But the vast majority of the information
it's
might
irrelevant.
be made up and false. So if we can trick, and where AI is pretty close to this right now, where it could trick, it can make perfect images of me talking and whatnot that can be, you can't figure out that if it's me or not.
This is him.
Flood the web with that. And I think sooner or later, there is an arms race between. Right now, we're losing the privacy side of things, but sooner or later there will be that zip-up suit where you don't see me, you see George Clooney or something like that, and it is an anti-monitoring suit that masks my voice and everything.
Well, they're working on screenless projection, and if that technology comes to fruition, then you could literally project an image of yourself in front of yourself, basically. But anyway, I mean that's just I was talking like VPNs. Do those help?
Yeah, virtual private networks definitely. I use DuckDuckGo, so because it supposedly doesn't track your internet browsing and all that. But basically, most of that stuff. It's extremely convenient just to use whatever's the default browser and make everything.
And the companies know immediately, even if you haven't typed in any name or anything, who's accessing the web at that point, and other identifiers on your computer, not to mention any identifiers if you use a web browser that you're signed into. It has bookmarks and everything else. Pretty much you're not anonymous. Please know this, you're not anonymous on the web.
So VPNs, Tor Onion browsers are good, but they're very slow, and that can get you to the dark web. And if you use VPN in a Tor Onion browser, that's about as good as you're going to get in an online environment. It's very difficult for anyone to figure out what you're doing at that point. It's just extremely slow and extremely limited. Bitcoin is another friend, or cryptocurrency, if you can figure out how that works. So you take so there are ways to, let's just say, wash Bitcoins in a way so they can't, it's a public ledger, but if you do it the right way, you can't track exactly which bits are going where. And so you can anonymize the Bitcoin you have in your wallet.
You still owe taxes on it. We are not advocating.
Yeah. And I pay all my taxes on my Bitcoin. And then you can get Bitcoin into dark markets and order things. And can
I back, because this is, and we'll wrap up with this, but this is one of those things, and I've seen it on the left and the right. I have seen feminists say you just want privacy because you want to do sexist things in your home, and on the right, you just want privacy because you want immoral things, pornography or drugs. And so as soon as you say dark web, readers that have come from those perspectives, they'll immediately go to the bad. But isn't that also the space where people who are trying to avoid tyrannical governance communicate through, reach out through, try to organize through, and try to have some escape? So they kind of go hand in hand. If you eliminated that option, you are in fact eliminating also good aspects. Are there good aspects of the dark web?
Oh, yeah, I would say, it's great. So with the bad, a hitman for hire, for example, which you can use key escrow systems to hire a hitman to do things. You have a truly anonymous speech, Twitter revolution, the Green Revolution that overthrows dictators. And you have a sharing of information. So dictators want to restrict information and information flows. Well, with the internet and the dark web and all of that, you can find out, this dictator has 4 palaces and a pet gorillas and whatnot, and the population, they're starving to death, right? And that tends to piss people off, and you have overthrow. So that's all happening, and so in that sense, the dark web is a great benefit in terms of it's great for whistleblowers. If I don't know what you think about Snowden or Julian Assange, but if you don't even like them, other kinds of whistleblowers that want to anonymously put information that the public needs to know out there. It's a great. So as much as the government is looking at us, so think of like you're trapped in a fishbowl, and all this technology is being used against us. With the dark web and many kinds of different technologies can also be used against them. So imagine if you're a politician and every keystroke you make, everything you do is recorded and now loaded into a dark web where it can be searched and manipulated. So you turn the same technology around against the people, against certain, and that kind of levels the playing field. I don't like any of it. I want to say, let's not violate individual privacy. But if we're gonna, I don't want one side, the government or corporations or whatever, to have all the power and the rest of us to be the rubes in the equation. I want it to equalize out. But in the best of all possible worlds, I want to say, what do we owe each other? I don't owe the government much, and they don't owe me much, aside from certain rights, liberties, powers, and whatnot. And people shouldn't be videotaping me as I walk down the street, monetizing that and selling it to the government, or using it to manipulate me to vote for a political candidate or what have you, or using it for grift. Or
I know I said that would be the last question, but I think this final bit here is important. So just like a 2-minute thought on this. From talking to you earlier, I mean, we're talking about privacy. Rights are important. We're talking about privacy because we don't want people to be able to mess up our lives, whether they're corporations or manipulate us, or governments, put us in jail or don't let us fly. But is there a deeper reason rooted in human flourishing, our personal well-being, as to why we should be concerned about this issue of privacy? It's not just a policy issue. Is there some sort of human issue involved here about us being well as human beings, individually functioning well?
Right, so that's a great question, and I think from my research I've done for years now, is the answer to that's yes. So we can draw fairly close connections. I don't say causal connections, but maybe you want to say that to the extent that you have control over access to and uses of spaces, location, and personal information, you have you promote or sustain human flourishing and well-being. To the extent that you undermine your ability to control access to and uses of places, locations, and personal information, you see an uptick. And this is cross-cultural. We see it with kids in household overcrowding studies in Thailand and in the south side of Chicago. We see an uptick in depression, recidivism if it's criminal activity, drug use, early teen pregnancy for girls, more use of health services, all of this stuff. Alcoholism, the whole nine yards, and you can see it in the workplace. So one of the really cool studies that came out probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, is you take like an insurance office and half of them you put them under the new way of monitoring, the new surveillance, keystrokes per minute, active badges as they move around go to the restroom. Everything is monitored down to they get performance reviews and all that based on all that information. The other side is you come in and you punch a time card. We're paying you a fair wage. Work, do your job. And what do you see as you track these two populations? You see one side start taking more sick days, more health problems, and on, and the other side, productivity stays the same, and productivity goes down over here, right? And the productivity stays the same as it did before, and you don't get all this other stuff. So, and you see this in the workplace. This side is more likely to commit acts of violence against computer systems and whatnot on the job and in each other, more sexual harassment, everything. So it is, I think it's a clear connection between human health and well-being and the ability to access and control to your body's capacities, powers, and personal information.
We'll post a link to that in the comments if you're interested in finding out what that study is. By the way, while you're looking down in the comments, please make sure to hit the like button so that this video, more people can see it, oddly enough. We don't want it to stay private, but I think that's, as a final message to tune out, our psychological, physical, and even social health depends on privacy. It's not just some weird libertarian concern. This is something that's deeply human that we are concerned about in the end. And so, thank you for being here today. Thank you for going through this interview. And if you have any final words,
No, sounds great. Thanks.
thanks, Grace. Thanks for tuning into the Academy on Capitalism. Please make sure to watch our other videos that we have. You can see Bob Lawson on property rights. You can see me talking about the rules we have for our website and the values that we hold, as well as many, many other videos. Please watch. List your comments. We love to hear from you. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks.